is May 22nd, 2025, and this is Read Through the Bible.
Today's a happy day. Not for us so much, but there are some high school guys at our church who are listening along to this podcast and meet together on Sunday mornings to talk about just what they're learning. Super encouraging. It's this group that just kind of spontaneously formed. Super encouraging for us.
Yeah, definitely. And so a lot of them go to Rockford Christian School, and it's their last day of school. So
that's why they're happy.
Happy last day of school, guys.
Yep, to Thatcher, Samuel, Austin, and Parker. And also Sam joins them as well. He doesn't go to Rockford Christian, but I'm sure he could be happy for you guys as well. So just know I'm super encouraged. High school guys reading the Bible, talking about it together. Like that, you have no idea how encouraging that is to me.
Yep.
And today we are reading Numbers 30 and 31. Mm-hmm. And chapter 30 has to do with vows, and chapter 31 has to do with war.
Yep. So 30 sounds kind of like Leviticus and laws and rules. And Okay, here we go. Chapter 30, verse 1. Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, saying, "This is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth."
Okay, that's what a man does. And now it's interesting how much it speaks about a woman. The rest of the chapter. If a woman vows a vow to the Lord and binds herself by a pledge while within her father's house in her youth, and her father hears of her vow and of her pledge by which she has bound herself and says nothing to her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which she has bound herself shall stand. But if her father opposes her on the day that he hears of it, no vow of hers, no pledge by which she has bound herself shall stand, and the Lord will forgive her because her father opposed her.
If she marries a husband while under her vow, or any thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she has bound herself, and her husband hears of it and says nothing to her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her pledges by which she has bound herself shall stand. But if on the day that her husband comes to hear it, he opposes her, then he makes void her vow that was on her, and the thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and the Lord will forgive her. But any vow of a widow or of a divorced woman, anything by which she has bound herself, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by a pledge with an oath, and her husband heard of it, and said nothing to her, and did not oppose her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband makes them null and void on the day that he hears them, then whatever proceeds out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning her pledge of herself shall not stand. Her husband has made them void, and the Lord will forgive her.
Just right there, it's interesting here that forgiveness is granted without any sacrifice.
Yeah.
It just kind of stands out in stark contrast. It's just very, very strange here that happens.
Yeah.
But whatever
been repeated here.
I think it has to do, like the whole thrust of chapter 30 is if you make a vow, you better keep it. This is what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Like what we say with our words, we ought to just be truthful about them. Yeah.
That's helpful.
That's the thrust of this.
Pull up and see the big picture.
Yes.
Okay, verse 13. Any vow and any binding oath to afflict herself, her husband may establish, or her husband may make void. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he establishes all her vows or all her pledges that are upon her. He has established them because he said nothing to her on the day that he heard of them. But if he makes them null and void after he has heard of them, then he shall bear her iniquity.
These are the statutes that the Lord commanded Moses about a man and his wife and about a father and his daughter while she is in her youth within her father's house. So, just vows is the big thing here. Numbers chapter 20. And if you remember the details, a man makes a vow must be kept, and women, they need to keep their vow unless their husband or their father annuls it.
Yeah. I have vows in families for men and women.
Yep.
So something like that. Chapter 31 is going to be about an attack of the Israelites on the Midianites.
Yep, get some history here again.
Yep. Okay, chapter 31. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Avenge the people of Israel on the Midianites. Afterward you shall be gathered to your people." So avenge means that the Israelites need to go seek vengeance on these people, on the Midianites, and that's because of what happened in chapter 25 and the idolatry and immorality that happened because of the Midianites and because of Balaam. Okay, so verse 3. So Moses spoke to the people, saying, arm men from among you for the war, that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall send 1,000 from each of the tribes of Israel to the war. So there were provided, out of the thousands of Israel, 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 from each tribe, together with Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, with the vessels of the sanctuary and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. They warred against Midian as the Lord commanded Moses and killed every male. That's pretty complete.
Yeah. I mean, we have talked today all about genocide in Gaza, and this is pretty much genocide, wiping out the Midians.
Yeah.
And so just don't like, hey, this is some historic way. This is horrific of what's taking place here.
Right.
And it's because of how seriously God takes sin that Midian led them into, or that Moab, or Balaam, helped lead them into immorality, and they need to be destroyed.
Yeah. Verse 8, they killed the kings of Midian with the rest of their slain, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. And they also killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. So he was hanging out on the Midianite side, and he got killed. Verse 9, and the people of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones, and they took as plunder all their cattle, their flocks, and all their goods, all their cities and the places where they lived, and all their encampments they burned with fire. And they took all the spoil and all the plunder, both of man and of beast. Then they brought the captives and the plunder and the spoil to Moses and to Eleazar the priest and to the congregation of the people of Israel at the camp on the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho.
Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the chiefs of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. And Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds who had come from service in the war. Moses said to them, have you let all the women live? Behold, these, on Balaam's advice, caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor, Numbers 25. And so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord and killed 24,000.
Yeah, and particularly it was the Midianite women that was the problem.
Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known a man by lying with him. But all the young girls who have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Encamp outside the camp 7 days. Whoever of you has killed any person who has ever touched any slain, purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day of the 7th month. You shall purify every garment, every article of skin, and all the work of goat's hair, and every article of wood.
Then Eleazar the priest said to the men in the army who had gone to battle, this is the statute of the law that the Lord has commanded Moses. Only the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can stand the fire, you shall pass through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall also be purified with the water for impurity. And whatever cannot stand the fire, you shall pass through the water. You must wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you shall be clean. And afterward you may come into the camp.
The Lord said to Moses, take the count of the plunder that was taken, both of man and of beast, you and Eleazar the priest, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the congregation, and divide the plunder into 2 parts, between the warriors who went out to battle and all the congregation. And levy for the Lord a tribute from the men of the war who went out to battle, 1 out of every 500 of the people, oxen, and donkeys, and the flocks. Take it from their half, and give it to Eleazar the priest as a contribution to the Lord. And from the people of Israel half you shall take, 1 drawn out of every 50 of the people, of oxen, of donkeys, of the flocks, of all the cattle, and give them to the Levites who keep guard over the tabernacle of the Lord. And Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. So it's basically, right, you want all this plunder, make sure you give some to the Levites, because they can't go out to fight in war, but they need some plunder. They need to be provided for.
Verse 32, now the plunder remaining of the spoil that the army took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 camels, cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 people in all, women who had not known man by lying with him. And the portion of those who had gone out in the army, numbered 337,500 sheep, and the Lord's tribute of sheep was 675. The cattle were 36,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 72. The donkeys were 30,500, of which the Lord's tribute was 61. The persons were 16,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 32 persons. And Moses gave the tribute, which was the contribution for the Lord, to Eleazar the priest, as the Lord commanded Moses.
My summary here is division of the booty.
Okay.
Is what it is. So how much booty they got, they're dividing it up. And from the people of Israel, half, which Moses separated from that of the men who had served in the army. Now the congregation's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 3,500 donkeys, and 16,000 persons. From the people of Israel, half Moses took of every 50, both of persons and of beasts, and gave them to the Levites, who kept guard over the tabernacle of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Then the officers who were over the thousands of the army, the commanders of the thousands and the commanders of hundreds, came near to Moses and said to Moses, "Your servants have counted the men of war who are under our command, and there is not a man missing from us." That's really amazing.
Wow.
That they wiped out all the Midianites and none of the Israelites were killed.
That just speaks of the sovereign guiding hand of the Lord to protect all of Israel.
Yeah. Verse 50, "And we have brought the Lord's offering, what each man found, articles of gold, armlets and bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and beads, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. And Moses and Eleazar the priest received from them the gold, all crafted articles, and all the gold of the contribution that they presented to the Lord, from the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, was 16,750 shekels. The men in the army had each taken plunder for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest received gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it into the tent of meeting as a memorial for the people of Israel before the Lord."
Okay. So we see vengeance against Midian and division of the booty. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.